Our next section will be the experience of the private sector ministries of health in PPI units, intermediaries, and local level distributors on how health-focused companies take root in countries and municipalities. This will be a Medtronic's experience in establishing the PPP in East Africa. This will be facilitated with the discussion, questions, and answers by our moderator, Katherine Taylor, who, as I mentioned earlier, is the Associate Director in Clinical Global Health Training at Institute at that Institute for Global Health at the University of Notre Dame. The participants, I'll let Trevor introduce as you begin.
Hi, I'm going to take Trevor's place here to introduce, it's my pleasure to introduce this fine panel. I am Kathy Taylor at the University of Notre Dame, and we're really excited by bringing together this panel. The strategy was for this panel and the other panels to get, the pieces of the puzzle for PPPs from, the private sector to the public sector to the decision-making process to those who are implementing on the ground. And so each of our panelists has a specific role in this process, and I think you'll see how that sort of unveils itself. And Emmanuel's laying the groundwork for all of this was just fabulous. He sort of gave us the ingredients of a successful PPP and the recipe for what we're labeling the enabling environment. And so that enabling environment where, a lot of the squares that he showed, but that's the environment for the private sector development and the conditions necessary for business and entrepreneurs to operate and the conditions that facilitate that operation. So that's sort of the basis of where we're starting. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce everyone quickly so you see where they fit in the panel, and then they'll each give a 10 to 15 minute talk. We'll have just a couple minutes for questions after each talk. However, there'll be a big discussion at the end, okay? So save your big questions for the big discussion at the end. So I'll start with, at my left here is Trevor Gunn. Trevor is representing the private sector here. He's the Vice President of International Relations for Medtronic. He also sits on the U.S. State Department's Advisory Committee on International Economic Policy and is an official trade advisor to the Office of the U.S. Trade Representative in the Industry Trade Advisory System of the U.S. government. So, and all of these are a bit of a mouthful, so bear with me, but I think it's important for you to know what their roles are and where they've come from. Anna Nganga, Anne is here. She is what I would say is representing the country of Kenya in many ways. She currently heads the Division of Healthcare Equipment at the Ministry of Health in Kenya. She has wide experience working in public health programs, having worked at the National AIDS Control Program, the Family Health Program, and the National Cancer Control Program in Kenya. Next to her is Francis Mariah. He's the Senior Economic Advisor to the President of Kenya in matters of the economy, including public-private partnerships, and I think he'll be giving us the big picture view of how the country establishes their preparedness. Prior to the current presidential appointment, he worked at the World Bank in Washington, D.C., so he's back home a little bit here, for over 15 years in various senior level positions. Next, we have Mary Matu. She is the person that makes everything happen on the ground in Kenya. She is the business woman. She's the founder and executive director of Angelica Medical Supplies and currently serves as the director of the National Standard Council. She brings over 20 years of health systems management and government contracting and negotiation. And finally, we have Ruben Valenga. He's what I call the intermediary, and we'll talk about that a little bit more, what that means. He is the SDG Partnership Specialist and Lead for Health at the United Nations, Resident Coordinator's Kenya Office of the SDG Partnership Platform. That is quite the mouthful. He has 12 years of working experience in the field of international development, offering technical support to over 36 country programs around the world. So certainly a broad, again, geographic distribution of his experience. So with that, I'd like to just go ahead and we'll launch into the first talk by Trevor Gunn. Yes, okay. I think so.